Guys, second video for the week, dealing with volume. What we're going to do in this video is we are going to be solving for different parts of a three-dimensional shape. So this time you'll be given the volume and you're going to be looking for either the length, the width, the height, the radius, the diameter, one of those dimensions. All right, so this is where when I initially started talking about volume, I said the first step you always want to write down the formula. And I said it was very, very important that you do that when we get to solving for the different dimensions, because when you write down the formula, you're going to substitute in what you know. And once you substitute in what you know, that's setting up your equation to go through and solve for the missing part. And I think you'll see that in the next couple of examples. Okay, so let's get started. It says the volume of a rectangular prism is 360 centimeters cubed. The height of the cube is 4 centimeters and the width is 5 centimeters. What is the length of the prism? All right, well, first of all, I think there's a typo in here because it's not going to be a cube if the dimensions are different. So let's say the height of the prism is 4 centimeters and the width is 5, and we are looking for the length. Okay, so like I said, the first thing that we want to do is write the formula. So volume of a rectangular prism is length times width times height. All right, I'm going to plug in what I know. I know the volume is 360. So I'm going to put that in for V. I know that the length, I don't know what the length is, so I'll leave that as L. I am then going to plug in the width of 5, and the height is 4. Okay, so now I'm going to solve this equation to figure out what the length is. So I got to simplify this. 4 times 5 is 20, so I got 20L equals 360. Now this is going back to the beginning of the year, and we're going to solve the equation. We want to get L by itself. We're multiplying by 20, so to get rid of that 20, we're going to divide both sides by 20. And that ends up being 18 equals L. So the length is 18 centimeters. Okay, any questions on that? If you have any questions, jot them down, and then at our next meet, you can ask them to me or shoot me an email. All right, moving on to the next one. All right, the next one says a cylindrical cake takes up 32 pi cubic inches. The radius of the cake is 4 inches. What is the height of the cake? All right, so cylindrical means I'm dealing with a cylinder. So the first thing I'm going to do is write down the formula for a cylinder. So V equals pi r squared h. And now I'm going to substitute in what I know. So it's saying that this cake takes up 32 pi cubic inches. Remember, volume talks about the amount of space that it takes up, or the amount of space that it would take to fill the object. So 32 pi is your volume. So I'm going to put that in for V. It says the radius of the cake is 4 inches. And it's asking for the height. All right. Pi is actually a number. You're never going to substitute anything in for pi. It's a number. It's just we write it as a symbol. Okay, so now I'm going to go through and I am going to solve for h. So you can do this two separate ways. You could actually divide by all of this in your calculator, or I like to simplify that a little bit before I divide it. I think 4 squared equals 16. So I know I got 16 pi times h. Now I want to get h alone. Everything is connected with multiplication. So I'm going to divide the right and the left side by 16 pi. So on the right side, pi's divide out, 16s divide out. I get h by itself. On the left side, my pi's divide out, and 32 divided by 16 is 2. So the height of this cake is 2 inches. Okay. Second part of the question, it says, or second question, is the Roberts family uses a container shaped like a cylinder to recycle aluminum cans. It has a diameter of 1.5 feet and a volume of 2.25 pi feet cubed. If the container is filled halfway to the top, what is the height that the cans reach? Okay. So let's see. We have our cylinder, and I'm going to draw a little diagram for this. And it says that it has a diameter, so going across the whole thing, it's 1.5 feet. The volume is 2.25 pi feet cubed. Okay, but the cans only go halfway up the container. Okay, so it says, what is the height that the cans reach? All right, so we need to first figure out, well, what would be the volume, since we know the volume of the whole container. Using that, can we find the height of the whole container? So let's start by writing the formula for volume of a cylinder. V equals pi r squared h. I'm going to plug in what I know. The volume is 2.25 pi. I'm going to multiply that by pi times the radius squared. Now, I know that the diameter is 1.5. I need to know the radius. So remember, to find the radius, you take 1.5, you divide by 2. So the radius is 0.75. All right, so I'm going to take that, plug it in for my r, radius squared, and now multiply that by the height. But the height, I don't know, so I'm just going to put h in. Okay, so now I'm going to go through and I'm going to simplify this a little bit. Just like in the problems before, we're going to leave pi as the symbol pi until the very end. All right, so I am going to bring down the 2.25 pi equals, I'm going to multiply this out. 0.75 squared is 0.5625. Don't round because it's not your final answer, so make sure you write the whole thing out. Pi h. Now, the h is what I want to get alone, so I have to get rid of all of this. Everything is connected through multiplication, so I'm going to get rid of the 0.5625 pi by dividing everything by 0.5625 pi. Now, on the right side, everything will divide out and you get h by itself. On the left side, your pi's divide out, and then you could just put in the calculator 2.25 divided by 0.5625, and you end up with 4 feet. Okay? So this one, you have to go back and read the question. I remember that it wasn't that we were just finding the height of the shape. It said something, what did it say? It said that the cans only went up half of the container, right? If the container is filled halfway, what is the height that the cans reach? So the cans are only going up halfway. So if the whole can is 4 feet, the cans will reach 2 feet high in the container. Okay. All right. Next example. It says the volume of a cone is 1,272 inches cubed with a diameter of 18 inches. Find the height of the cone rounded to the nearest whole number. Okay, so just like the other problems, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write the volume of a cone. The volume of a cone is 1/3 pi r squared h. And I'm going to plug in what I know. I know that the volume is 1,272. I'm going to copy down 1/3 pi. And it says my diameter is 18. Well, if the diameter is 18, remember the radius, we can find that by dividing the diameter by 2. So in this case, the radius is 9. So I'm going to plug in 9 for the radius. And the height, oh, that's what we're looking for. So that'll stay h. Now, when I'm solving this, I can plug in 1/3 times 9 squared. Okay, only put that part in the calculator. Don't hit the pi key yet. All right, so 1/3 times 9 squared, we get 27 pi h. All right, so then what we are going to do, is get rid of the 27 pi because we want to get h by itself. All right, so this is all connected through multiplication, so we just want to get rid of this. So divide both sides by 27 pi. So on the right side, the pi's divide out, the 27's divide out, you get h on your own. On the left side, now this is an example where you have to be careful because see how in the top we don't have pi to divide out? So you want to make sure that when you put this in the calculator, you type in 1,272 divided by, but then you put the 27 pi. You have to put it in parentheses because sometimes your calculator gets kind of confused with order of operations. And what this is saying is that you're taking the 1,272 and you're dividing it by this whole number versus just dividing it by 27. Okay, so make sure that you put that whole entire thing in the calculator, putting the divided by 27 pi in parentheses. All right, and then you end up with 14.99593. It goes on for a while. The question says to round to the nearest whole number. So nearest whole number, this would round up to 15. So the height of this cone is 15 inches. Okay, next one. It says find the radius of a cylinder with a volume of 75 pi inches cubed and a height of 3 inches. So cylinder, I know the formula for volume of a cylinder is pi r squared h. Again, I'm going to plug in what I know. I know the volume is 75 pi. Pi will stay pi. I'm looking for my radius, so I'm not plugging anything in for r, but I know my height is 3 inches. Okay, so this time, if you need to rewrite this, the only thing that I could multiply together at this point is the 3 pi, and I still have that r squared written with variables. All right, so I need to get r by itself. So the first thing I need to do is I have to get rid of this times 3 pi. So the opposite of multiplying by 3 pi is to divide by 3 pi. And that's how I'm going to get rid of it. So on the right side, pi's divide out, 3's divide out, and I'm left with r squared. On the left side, pi's divide out, and 3 goes into 75, 25 times. Now, I still don't have r by itself. I need to get rid of the squared. The opposite of squaring something, remember, you're going to take the square root of it. So the square root of 25, you actually get a positive and a negative 5, but we're talking about the distance of something, so we can't actually have a negative distance. So when we find our answer here, it's going to be the positive root. So it's going to be 5 inches. All right, last example. This one is talking about a sphere. All right, it says the sphere has a volume of about 288 cubic feet. What is the radius of the sphere? Round your answer to the nearest foot. Okay, so same steps. First thing, oh, my pen's not working now. First thing, I'm going to, first thing is I am going to write the volume formula. So volume of a sphere is V equals 4/3 pi r cubed. And now I'm going to plug in what I know. I know that the volume is 288. 4/3 pi is part of the formula. And now I'm looking for that radius cubed. Okay? Now, in order to find the radius, just like the last one, I have to get rid of this 4/3 pi. It's being connected with the r to the third power, the radius cubed, with multiplication. So the opposite of multiplying is to divide by 4/3 pi. So on the right side, the pi's will divide out, the 4/3 will divide out, and I will get radius cubed by itself. On the left side, you need to, again, make sure that when you put this in the calculator, you do 288 divided by, and then this in the bottom, this 4/3 pi, you have to make sure that you put that in parentheses so that your calculator knows the correct order of operations to perform. Okay, so when you put 288 divided by 4/3 pi into the calculator, you end up with 68.75493542. Now, this is the only time when you are going to be required to write out this whole decimal right here, because when you put this in the calculator, you're not actually finding your final answer. You're finding the radius cubed. Okay, so we're not done yet, but you need to write this down because your calculator won't remember it, and 2, you got to show your work. So now to figure out what r is, because we have r cubed, you have to remember take the cubed root of both sides. Now remember, to put the cube root in your calculator, you're going to hit second, and then you're going to hit the caret button, because remember the caret button in blue above it has where it says x and then that square root. Oh, I'm sorry. I take it back. Hold on. First, we have to hit the number 3 and then hit the second button, because what that's going to do is it's going to put 3 in for the x. So it's saying 3, hit the second button. That's going to indicate you're doing the cubed root. And then you are going to type in 68.75493542. 4, 2, 3, however long your calculator shows what you're taking the cube root of. Okay. Once you type that into your calculator and you hit enter, you are going to get your answer. And it will work out to be I'm just typing it in here real quick. Sorry about that. Okay. And your answer ends up being rounded to the nearest foot will be 4 feet. Okay. All right. I hope that helps. And those are your 2 videos for this week. The worksheet that goes along with the 2 videos. It is a little bit longer since I only give you 1 worksheet for this week. So please do not wait till the very last day to work on it. I would do a little bit of it each day and email me any questions that you may have throughout the week. All right.